Now on HTV, live coverage of the 1998 Brazilian Grand Prix.
Bullseye for the Silver Arrows in Australia. It's a public relations disaster, but a 16-point maximum. Now all smiles in Brazil. Hakkinen on pole, Coulthard alongside him. Victory only 193 miles away. It's the Brazilian Grand Prix from Interlagos, Sao Paulo. We're just under 40 minutes away from the first of 72 laps. Hello, good afternoon. The balance of power in Formula One seems to be changing. This time last year, Jacques Villeneuve dominated qualifying and ran away with the Brazilian Grand Prix. Today, Villeneuve is a 10-to-1 outsider to retain his title. Those McLarens just look different class, but they're having a running battle with the authorities. The 1-2 in Melbourne 3 weeks ago should have been one of McLaren's greatest days. But when the kissing stopped, the recriminations began. The governing body issued a warning about contrived racing. Here in Brazil, the McLarens dominate every session, a good second ahead of the rest, but there's more aggravation. Their braking system is declared illegal after protests from other teams. McLaren run without it, it makes no difference. They could still contest that decision. Interlagos is trickier than ever. Even the peerless McLarens have their moments. And the track can bite you, even if you're called Michael Schumacher. So what happened in qualifying? Let's hear now from Louise Goodman.
The session started quietly, but it wasn't long before the crowd had something to watch. David Coulthard was the first of the front runners to take to the track. It wasn't a perfect lap from the Scot by any means, but as expected, he still set the early pace.
Now sweeping down, he'll bring it over to the barrier on the left-hand side, and bang, here comes the line. What kind of time is it?
It was a 1 minute 18.769, and there was still more to come from the McLarens. Herbert's nightmare weekend continued when his throttle jammed open in the morning session. His race car destroyed, Johnny had to take the spare for qualifying, and clearly it was proving a handful.
We came from Melbourne looking very good, and we've come here again and it's just not really happened. Okay, I've done basically nothing driving wise, but it's good to be in front of Jean again.
But Johnny wasn't alone. World champion Villeneuve was having problems too.
He's going to lose it. Yeah, he's kept the engine running, no problem, and that won't do as good as a lot of good, but anyway, nice display there, Jacques. Frustrating day for him.
The weekend didn't start as we wanted it to start, but the race is tomorrow. We managed to get the car working a little bit better in the last run of qualifying, so as long as we can get it to work properly for the race, we should be okay.
Hakkinen had been quickest all weekend, and the Finn continued to fly in qualifying, beating Coulthard back down with his first lap. Local lad Diniz should know the Interlagos track well, but he was having problems finding his way.
Now you can't see the exit until you pop over the top, and he's off.
It's Diniz, it's Pedro Diniz has gone off.
It didn't get any better for the Arrows driver. He ended up 22nd and last. No such problems for Mika Hakkinen. He showed how it should be done, improving even further.
Over the line goes the McLaren Mercedes. 1 minute 17.092. A fastest lap again for Mika Hakkinen, and that's only 1 second slower now than last year's pole position time.
That was fantastic. It was a great job from everybody, and everything went exactly like we planned. It was a fabulous result.
The bumpy conditions caught quite a few drivers out, including Giancarlo Fisichella. He came back to finish a creditable 7th, with teammate Wirtz in a career-best 5th. The Benettons were split by Eddie Irvine, the Irishman delivering exactly what his team had been waiting for. He ended up just 2/10 slower than teammate Schumacher. Down at Jordan, Damon was having problems. Despite making a number of changes to the car for this race, he still wasn't happy with the handling.
I can only surmise that from my point of view that the car's very bad over the bumps, and it's a very bumpy track here. That's the only thing I can really put my finger on at the moment. Obviously, if I knew the answer, I'd get it sorted out.
Back at McLaren, Coulthard came out for another try, but his best still wasn't good enough.
Coulthard second on a 17.7, a much better lap from David, but still 3/4 of a second behind that stunner from Häkkinen.
Have enough of an advantage over the opposition that despite not really doing a good job in qualifying, I'm still second, so that's enough to give me a chance to go for the win.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen responded to McLaren's challenge with this charge late in the session.
Frentzen moves up to 3rd position, ahead of Michael Schumacher.
The Ferrari man made a last attempt to get his position back, but at the end of the day he had to content himself with 4th.
Being in where I am, it's either 3rd or 4th, it doesn't matter. I think even the side I am now is the inside line, so that helped me last year to take the 1st position against Jack, so hopefully it does the same again.
But once again, McLaren were the team to beat. They may have lost out in the steward's office, but they're still winning on the track.
So Häkkinen's 3rd career pole and all McLaren front row. Frentzen, a top Goodyear runner, ahead of Michael Schumacher. Wirtz, a career best 5th, followed by Eddie Irvine. Fisichella in the 2nd Benetton, and Ralf Schumacher. Panis and Villeneuve 9th and 10th. An unhappy Damon Hill, followed by Trulli and Barrichello. Johnny Herbert again out qualifying a Lacey. And down the back, Magnussen, Takagi, Nakano, Salo in the arrows, and a terrible start really for the Brazilians Rosset and Diniz in their home Grand Prix. And welcome to our little studio. First thing to tell you, it is red hot at high noon in Brazil, in the 30s, high 80s in old money, and we're going to be in for a scorching race, I'm sure. Tony Jardine is with me, and so is a special guest, Nelson Piquet, 3-time world champion for Brazil. A warm welcome to ITV, Nelson. Sum up the feeling in Brazil, would you, about this particular Grand Prix?
Well, it's a big party in Brazil. Always we have a Grand Prix, but the Brazilians, they are a little bit sad because in so many years we have so many Brazilians right down in the front, and now we don't have this anymore. And a lot of people lost a lot of interest here.
Is that just after the death of Ayrton Senna, because the country's never managed to replace him?
That's also, you know, it's for sure if you have a young guy here doing well, people forget about very quickly. But we don't have anybody run well. You know, it's always a lot of excuse. The car doesn't go, and people get fed up.
Sure. You had a little run round the circuit this morning, didn't you, in a sports car race, I believe. What are your feelings about Interlagos at the moment?
Oh, Interlagos it's a very boring circuit, I think.
Boring, really?
Yeah, it's quite the corners. We have a fantastic circuit here before, years before, and they shorten up the circuit, make all the corners more or less in the same speed. We really lost a lot of the taste of driving.
Right. Isn't that just, though, a bit with modern Formula One racing, that it has been calmed down a bit to try and make the whole sport safer?
Also, but actually here, you don't see chicanes, this kind of thing. But still, we had a fantastic circuit before, and now it's a little bit...
OK, well, I mean, Tony, if we remember last year, and look at the start of last year's race, the start last year, I mean, that was far from boring, was it?
Yeah, no, but I mean, as Nelson said, when men were men and boys were boys, there is a big difference. And this corner in particular has been sharp and bright up. But on the inside where Schumacher found the grip, pole, interestingly enough, is on the outside. And Villeneuve tried to stay with Schumacher and went around the outside, caused all that mayhem. The McLarens went off, Fisichella spun off, Hill went over the back. You see, tried to slug it out right here, staying alongside Schumacher, ran wide. And in Nelson's race this morning, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the cars went off there, so we expect a very hairy start.
Of course, Villeneuve had a restart and he won last year. What are your feelings about the McLarens at the moment? Do you think they're uncatchable?
Well, a lot of people talk about a lot of technical device, brakes, this, power control, this, but the big difference he has is the tires. The tires, the Bridgestone is much better. The front tire is much better. I was looking at the circuit. They have much better front end, and now the car is much quicker to get inside the corner, and that's a big difference. For sure, last year Bridgestone was running with
lesser teams,
small teams, and now with McLaren they make that big difference. I think nearly 90% of the difference must be the tires.
Okay. Right, Nelson, well, thanks for the moment anyway. Well, Nelson might think that Interlagos is boring, but most of the current drivers would say it gives them a real test. They have to start in a valley, they go anti-clockwise, that puts pressure on their necks, and the first corner, the Senna S, well, that is a real obstacle. Let's have a word with Murray Walker, what he thinks will happen when those red lights go out.
The first corner of any Grand Prix is always hazardous. Think of Monaco, for instance. And here is no exception. Remember how Villeneuve went off on the grass here last year. Now, they come uphill from the start. They come barreling into the Senna S. There's going to be 22 competitors altogether, and Michael Schumacher has said that the start is going to be particularly important. So, keep your eyes peeled. The first few yards of this race are going to be terrific.
I'm sure they will be. I'm sure you're hearing the noise behind me. You're missing no action at all. It's just a formation lap going on. Interlagos, though, it's slippery, it's awkward, bumpy as well. Has joined Martin Brundle talking us around the circuit, almost sitting on David Coulthard's shoulder, really.
2,400 feet in altitude and 2.66 miles, 190 miles an hour, break down into turn one, the Senna S. The second part of that complex, take a lot of curve, wait for the throttle, into the Curva do Sol. Normally easily full throttle, but this year they're really working the car hard through there, up to 180 miles an hour, into turn four, Decido do Lago. But this is a difficult corner. It's off camber on the exit, and you have to wait a long time before getting on the power. Turn 5, there's a nasty bump where Panis crashed heavily in the warm-up, but the McLaren handles it well into Ferradura. A double right-hander over the blind crest for the second part. Now bury the throttle, David, into the first part of Pinheirino. Lots of curb, but a bit of grass, second gear. 60 miles an hour on the apex here, wait, power hard. There's room on the exit, up to 130 before hard on the brakes. Yet again into second gear towards the end of the lap now. A little bit of inside wheel spinning there. Megula, wait on the bumps, wait, go. And now uphill, braking into the hill, but it's bumpy. The back end wants to step out. Again, you wait. Now it's full throttle. He will not lift the throttle again from Young Cao to the start-finish line. Take the line of least resistance to keep the car building up speed. Bring the car over to the left now against the barrier. Now you're driving for the line. Have a look on your computer for your lap time.
And David Coulthard will start on the front row. Now, Nelson, Mika Hakkinen is the favourite for this year's world title. Is he your favourite driver as well?
Well, I think he's a favourite because for sure Ron Dennis will be having number one, number two there. You can't say no, but Ron is very straight in this order. He's been doing this well for many, many years. He never lost a championship by wrong decision, and that's the reason Mika Hakkinen will win this. If he continues this different, he'll win the championship.
Okay, do you think that the current drivers have it easier than you did in your day? Is it easier to drive a car these days?
I don't think so. I think it's a hard job anyway, any car, and I think you have to be fit and you have to be dedicated in your work. But it's, of course, you sometimes have a power steering wheel, have a gears change like this, maybe a little bit easier, but not big difference.
Right, let's have a quick check on the driver's standings, how things look at the moment. And there we are, of course, after their domination in Australia. Hakkinen and Coulthard 1 and 2. And, of course, in the Constructors' Championship, the McLarens running away with that after just one round as well. Now, Nelson, just quickly, your old mucker Nigel Mansell is still driving a little bit. What do you think about that?
Great, you know. Clever enough to still making money with more racing.
Okay, well, of course, this is, as we've been saying, very much Ayrton Senna country. Senna won here twice in 91 and 93, and thousands of fans have come here bearing his insignia. Nelson was the main man before that. But then he followed this guy, Emerson Fittipaldi, a real trailblazer. He's talking to Louise.
Very nice to see you in the Formula One paddock, Emerson. What brings you to Interlagos?
Well, being the Brazilian Grand Prix, that's where I started racing Interlagos many years ago, and I love to be here. I was talking to Bernie, and I hope it'll be a great race. The first race in Australia had the domination of the McLarens, and I'm sure they still be on top here, but with all the excitement of a new season.
Tell us about Interlagos. You raced here on a couple of occasions. What's it like as a circuit?
It's a beautiful circuit. I mean, the original Interlagos was 5 miles one lap, 8 kilometers, corners, uphill, downhill, fast, slow corners, and still a beautiful track. I mean, on this valley, you have a fantastic view for the spectators. I miss not to be driving. I miss not to be here and start on Sunday.
It's a few years since you raced now. Coming back into the Formula One paddock, what do you think are the biggest changes?
Well, it's getting every time more and more professional. But I think Formula One is coming back to be very competitive again. Will be very competitive in the next 2 or 3 years. I can see a lot of young drivers coming to the sport. I can see more teams being added in the future. I think it'll be a lot of racing, a lot of excitement for the next 2 or 3 years.
What about the current crop of drivers? How do they compare to the guys that you were racing against?
I think they like always, they're extremely talented. The young guys starving to win. They are there. I mean, they perform. They know how to do. Now the driver has the ability of understand the computer, understand the information. When he comes out of the car, he comes out of the cockpit. He has so much information available that we didn't have when I was in Formula One. I had this experience in IndyCar 2 years ago, but that's fantastic. I mean, you can compare to your teammate, you can compare to the other guys, you can see the steering wheel position into the corner, the pitch of the car, the brake position, how much horsepower you had. I mean, it's fantastic information that if the driver can analyze that information, I'm sure he can improve the car for the next practice, and you can improve his performance just looking at all the data available.
Well, that must make it a very different job.
It's very different, but when he's on the cockpit, is his performance, his talent with the car is a man-machine combination that's going to perform like always been and always is going to be in the future too.
Emerson Fittipaldi, something of a hero of yours?
Look, we have of course, three good drivers in Brazil now, Emerson, myself, and Senna. But Emerson was the godfather of our, because after Emerson went to England, win the Formula 4, Formula 3, got in the Formula 1, win the championship Formula 1. After the first day Emerson went there, more than 2,000 Brazilians did the same, you know. And Emerson was the man that opened the way and went there, and after that it was very easy, you know. It was easy for me, and it was easier for Senna because it only followed the way and that's it.
That's what you need now is a new hero. Who are going to be the heroes this afternoon? Who's going to win?
Well, we don't go have any heroes here for Brazil, you know.
Yeah.
Because
but the race, what are your feelings?
Well, I think the McLaren will win the race easier. We'd have any problem if the rain is not supposed to come down. I think the McLaren will win easy. We'd have if you don't have any mechanical problem.
Right. Okay. You two go back a long way finally.
Well, in his first year when he started driving in '78 in Grand Prix, put him in the spare Brabham Alpha at Canada, and he took Watson and allowed it to the cleaners, and we were all absolutely gobsmacked by the performance. But we were testing here '78, the old swamp with Niki Lauda, and he crashed down there. None of us would go down and get him because you told us there was loads of snakes down there, so we said leave him for the snakes.
Nelson, we know you're a busy man today. We appreciate you joining us on ITV. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you for the English people.
Thanks.
Okay, then here we are then in Sao Paulo. It's a massive, urban, ugly sprawl, really. A city somewhat out of control, but it's the second stop on Formula One's World Tour. And today, Sao Paulo flies the flag for the Brazilian Grand Prix. just to let you know that since you joined us in Sao Paulo, the track temperature has gone up 3 degrees. It's now 33 and rising, over 90 degrees. We'll be right back. And hello once again from the Brazilian Grand Prix, due off in just over a quarter of an hour's time. Well, you might not think it looking outside, but we had a lot of overnight rain here, and it made the morning warm-up very interesting indeed. Let's call in James Allen. James has been keeping his eye on the morning's thrills and spills.
Incidents in the Sunday morning warm-up are a major setback to race preparation. Michael Schumacher was forced to run back to the pits to get the spare car after this spin. His brother Ralph was also in trouble, losing control over the damp curbs. He knocked the suspension off the Jordan in this accident, giving his mechanics an awful lot of work to do to get his car ready for the race. Giancarlo Fisichella also found the wet curbs a problem. He rear-ended the Benetton, and the mechanics initially thought the car had been completely destroyed. But lucky for them, on closer inspection, it turned out to be repairable. He will take the start. But by far the worst accident of all occurred to Olivier Panis. The Frenchman very lucky indeed to get away with this massive impact. Just look at that chassis. Well, I'm delighted to tell you that Olivier Panis is okay. He hasn't re-broken those legs, which he broke last year. He's got a slight back problem, but it's being massaged, and he will take the start, and he'll take it in the spare car here. Behind here, well, it's all very secret squirrel. This is the car he crashed this morning. They're going to send it back to France and fly a new one out for Argentina.
The Argentinian Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. Now, Tony, that is good news about Olivier Panis. His cross went round like a sort of Catherine wheel there. It could have been very nasty, remembering what happened to him in Montreal as well.
Yeah, the grass was damp this morning after the overnight rain, so once the car went off, it kept on spinning. But the initial impact as the car speared in was very heavy indeed, and it was front on. So you can imagine what was going through his mind then as he went in. Then the car carried on going. Finally, when it came to rest, all the front suspension had gone, and the front end of the monocoque had withstood that mighty blow. He got out very, very dizzy. He is a bit bruised, but he's okay. He's probably had a sauna like you did last night with Hakkinen.
Yes, yeah. See more chip on him, more sort of fat on a matchstick when I saw him, Mika Hakkinen there, but there we are, that's another story. OK, let's get the story from Martin Brundle now, shall we? Wandering down the old pit lane and wandering down the start. Martin, off you go, mate.
Hello there, hello everybody. I hope Nelson Piquet didn't tell you the real stories about what used to go on in his days in Formula One. Here we are on the grid, very interesting grid here, unusual because it's so narrow, and it's one of the, have a look up here, Keith, it's one of the few grids where you can see the colour of the eyes of the spectators. It tends to funnel in there, especially as you're doing 190 miles an hour in this spot. Now, there's a man here who says that he will do an interview with me. Coming up, excuse me, sir, have you, what are you doing on the grid today?
Loitering with intent, Martin.
So, Ron, your guys have just spent 4 hours putting this car together. Now they've pulled it apart again. What are they doing?
Last-minute check. Leak check, we call it.
OK, so, you know, what? Are they're looking for leaks, they're checking tightness of all nuts and bolts and...
No, they're not checking for tightness because that's all done through a systematic approach. But it's done a couple of laps since we last had it apart, and it's just wise to just take a look and see if there's anything that indicates a possible problem in the race. It's more of a confidence boost for the mechanics than a practical necessity.
Do you get nervous on the grid?
No.
Not at all? Not even a little butterflies and thinking, God, I hope my car's sort of delivered today, or my drivers or whatever?
Last few seconds before the lights, because obviously the first corner's where it can often all go wrong, but 30-odd years now, you tend to lose the butterflies. I mean, I'm obviously very keen to get a good result, but not too nervous.
I bet you had some butterflies when I was driving your cars. Do you feel slightly out of control at this point in that, you know, it's handed over to your two drivers, you've put everything in place, and now you actually almost, OK, you've got to think on your feet during the race for strategy, but to a certain extent, it's now out of your, your destiny is in their hands.
Yes, but we're really quite busy in the race. Don't get too much time to think. We've got a lot of data coming from the car, and we're analysing that data, trying to make sure that everything's working as it should. There's a few things that we can actually ask them to change to improve reliability or change the fuel consumption, things like that. And we can also see the vital signs of the car, and we can slow them down if brakes are on the limit or anything like that. So we're pretty busy.
Okay, good luck today, Ron. See you after the race. I think let's have a word with DC, see if we can find DC. In fact, he's already got in the car over there, getting ready early. No, DC's over here, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong car. Good luck, DC. I won't interrupt him now, he's adjusting all his bits and pieces and getting ready to get himself in the car. Here's my old friend Gerhard Berger, let's have a chat with him. Gerdy, don't go yet. Gerhard, we're live on English TV, okay, on British TV. So, you had a great race here last. It's okay, you can. Yeah, I'll talk first. You had a great race here last year. Finished second, nearly won the race. It must feel really strange to be standing here, you know, without a car, without all the panic.
Yeah, but you know what is the nice thing? Normally as driver you get year by year all the critic from the other people. Now I'm here and giving all the critic to the others. I see all mistakes, I see suddenly everything, you know, and it's a great feeling.
So you're not missing it at all?
I wouldn't say missing it at all. If you stay here, you would like to jump in the car. But if you have to think about training, diet, working for the sponsors, and all.
We just found a prize for yeah, we just found a prize for a competition sometime later this year. So, yeah, sorry, I wasn't listening to the answer.
I think in a sportsman always the time is coming when it's better to stop, and that was the right time. I'm feeling very happy to be here, to see all my colleagues, and yeah, I think it was the right time.
Well, you did your bit for Formula One, and Formula One was good to you, and it's good to see you again. Hope to see you later in the year. Cheers. Let's go and see who else we can find. What can we do for a competition for this? We've got to think of a good way of... This was... You saw it coming up... Oh, excuse me. You saw it coming off the head of Michael Schumacher. It's probably even a little bit sweaty. Let's go and have a look. Coming down here. Shuey there in on the second row of the grid. Here's Irvine. Let's have a quick chat with Irv. He said he wouldn't talk to me. I'll see if he'll turn me down. Irv, will you talk to me or not?
What do you want?
What do you want? Well, what's going to happen? You're third row of the grid. You've got to be careful you don't run into your teammate into the first corner, yeah?
Yeah, well, Michael makes pretty good starts, so hopefully he'll be ahead of Frenson and maybe cause Frenson a few problems and I can nip through.
But you went well again in the warm-up. You seem to have really got the car working. Through the weekend, you've gone from being in sort of really fighting the car to working it well, yeah?
Yeah, we made a few changes. You know, I took a bit of Michael's setup, he took a bit of my setup, and together it's got the car working pretty good.
Okay, good luck in the race, mate. Okay, back to you in the studio.
Yeah, well done down there, Martin. We'll sort out the competition for that Michael Schumacher hat and the Brazilian Grand Prix at blazing hot Sao Paulo is right around the corner. Stay with us and enjoy it, only on ITV, of course. It's the Brazilian Grand Prix, live on ITV from Interlagos, Sao Paulo. Settle back and enjoy the race. You'll hear from Louise Goodman and James Allen in the